All right, we are officially live here for our second session here at Algo. I'm Emily Slavic. I am the SVP for Product Management and Marketing here at Algo. And I have my special guest, Usman. He is our Chief Innovation Officer and one of the smartest people I know. So very excited to have him here. Usman, if you want to introduce yourself a bit for our viewers, that would be great.
Thank you, Emily. Excited to be here. My name is Usman Barkat. I'm working as Chief Innovation Officer, working alongside Emily Slavic. I'm responsible at Algo for all data science and data engineering related initiatives, be it they are related to our solution or to our customer deployments. I'm a graduate from University of Salford and hold an MBA from Salford Business School as well. All my life, I've worked in retail supply chain with a core focus on downstream supply chains. So in the past, I've worked with few multinationals and the capacity of merchandiser and BI analyst, leading to roles like chief merchant and head of supply chain. So primarily a supply chain operator. Super excited to be part of this conversation. Over to you, Emily.
Excellent. Well, the topic today is going to be about, Algo, what do we do and how do we apply digital transformation and all of our other I like to call them digital transformation path to success, all of those success factors to specific areas that we have specialty in. So we're going to talk a little bit about that so you can get to know Algo. And of course, Usman is going to bring some expertise to the table as we talk about that. So just to kick it off, for those that don't know Algo, we are a business and supply chain intelligence company. We help retailers and suppliers optimize their supply chain in a number of ways. So we'll be hopping into that here right now. So I'm actually going to first share just a one-page slide, and I think it really helps describe Algo and where our expertise lies. So as you can see here, there's a couple of factors, and we'll talk about them here today. But the first really is, what area of supply chain does Algo help? Where is our area of expertise? And as Usman was talking about, it really is the downstream supply chain. So really at supplier warehouse, of course, we support and inform supply planning as well, but really supplier warehouse to distribution or to a retailer's warehouse in particular, all the way to the end customer. So we help both suppliers and retailers. And I think a lot of our competition is, more upstream or just doesn't have the same amount of depth and knowledge with retailers where, that's where the game is lost or won when it comes to sales. So really excited to bring and showcase all of these solutions and tools in that space and arena. Here are the 4 enterprise solutions we're going to be talking about a little bit today. And then, we're giving you a little bit of our secret sauce with the path to success here. And these are really the factors that come into play with all of those enterprise pillars that really can help take you to the next level, take you out of spreadsheets, out of people trying to figure out how to pull data and information together via spreadsheet, and figure out ways to automate and use some of the latest intelligence capabilities to really take your supply chain to a next level. So with that, I'm going to start with demand planning, which I know, Usman, is very near and dear to your heart. But with Algo, when we talk about demand planning, there's a couple of factors. One, it's really long range forecast, mid to long range forecast planning. It's about collaboration, usually between regional and global planners, and how they figure out for particular items, and oftentimes large assortments, lots of items, how to manage their business. So with that, Usman, would love to hear your take on, maybe some of these success factors that I have noted here below. How is Algo a little bit different when it comes to demand planning?
Yeah, like you've said, we generate highly accurate forecast with low bias. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about, our methodology on how do we ensure that the platform provides our customers a collaborative space for planning S&OP cycles across their teams, like Emily has talked about, within departments and functional teams which are out there. And our range of supply chain planning solution includes the embedded experience of BI and advanced analytics that you see at the bottom of the slide. to view changes in real time. And this is one of the very key success factors of our demand planning module. So the software includes, the solution includes the extensive professional services, that simplify solution adoption, change management, any training that is required, any ongoing interactive innovation that we do, continue to work with teams to understand their technology roadmap and make sure that our future technology roadmap covers that. And then, we're going to talk a little bit in more detail about data management and supply chain co-management. So primarily, our forecast, that our demand planning, the long-term horizon or a short-term horizon forecast, they are highly granular. We try and they are normally broken down by items, location, accounts, and channel. And this is the key, that collaboration that happens from the involvement of our customer success teams and right down to providing that understanding of how data quality is important in the whole process, to applying that knowledge and blending that with machine learning, with the Lego blocks like segmentation and clustering, and applying to both top-down, bottom-up forecast. So I think that is the key success factor. And while we are at the topic, the promotional forecast that we do and the new item forecast that we do are key to the success, and the methodology that we're going to talk about a little bit in more detail in upcoming sessions will address that, how accurately we predict that.
Excellent. And I'm going to maybe highlight 2 points that you said there where I think we really differentiate. One is, like you said, professional services. And what that means to me is at Algo, the majority of us have been operators. So we don't just hand a software and walk away. There's different levels of those professional services. Even with just our simple solution integration, it is where Algo has, from a business perspective, a business partner and a data science partner that are really owning the outcomes, aka the forecasts of what those demand plans are and what the machine learning is being generated. And I would say some exciting wins that I've just seen in the last week, Usman, was one of our big strategic partners, who's a major consumer electronics computing company. We were providing forecasts that were so accurate. They were previously at a 30 MAPE, and we were bringing in 15, and had that huge, increase in forecasts, which we know downstream has big effects on, saving inventory costs, increasing revenue, all of those elements there. And I think it's the combination of our data scientists, the business team, and our tools together that really kind of hit home on that success. So I think that's one piece. The other that I heard you talk a little bit about was the connected elements that we have within demand planning. So not only can you go into the tool and create demand plans, but you can quickly then click and see all of the advanced analytics or control tower of reporting that are tied, and kind of do scenarios and being able to see how your decision impacts, everything along the lines of demand planning in that space. So those are the 2 things that get me really excited. And, there's those success factors on the bottom there, but those are the ones that kind of come to mind for me.
Yeah, the case study that you just referred to, and I'm glad that you brought that up. I think the key wins there were our capability to properly, understand the data, understand what kind of anomalies were there. We used, multivariate anomaly detection to exclude, impactors like stockouts from the seasonal trends, and that is, I think, gave the that quality to that forecast and to the overall process. Like you've explained, we have a dedicated team that understands the need for data cleansing, and the system allows ingestion of that data seamlessly in the system, and be able to understand historical behaviors and trends for old items or replacement items or new items. So yeah, I think the overall package in terms of having so many operators from the industry working as deployers for our clients, I think this is one of the big success factors. And the way our data refinery is set up is, I think, another expediter to the kind of results that we bring to the table.
I love it. All right, next we're going to talk a little bit about inventory planning. So how we define inventory is really the short range to mid-range forecasts, if you will, but then all of the inventory optimization that comes into play. So it's really that weeks 1 through 13 and all of the different nodes and examples come to mind of, a lot of partners that we work with right now have constraints that are happening because of COVID. And they have, for example, 10,000 units, and they need to figure out where do those 10,000 go. If you're a supplier, you're figuring out which account gets those units. If you are a retailer, you're figuring out which DC do you want to be sending those particular units. And so, we have a lot of know-how on that inventory planning, even into, we call them indirect accounts or indirect retailers, and having to work through disties and the complexities that can kind of come into play of generating forecasts with those factors in mind. So with that, Usman, what are your thoughts on how we differentiate in inventory planning?
I think the overall process, the data that we impact and the decisions that we impact within the supply chain, one has to take in decisions on how much our client is producing, what are their channel design. We deal with multi-echelon inventory problems. So again, a better robust forecast in terms of the right decisions and the right forecasting methodology becomes a key. When you're feeding a machine learning algorithm or when you're feeding a statistical engine, instead of feeding and I'll give you an example here. For example, a lot of people feed the sale invoice or point of sale data to the system while they are, expecting system to, generate demand forecast. So having to have the right forecasting methodology in play, understanding what are the right business KPIs that this forecast will try and impact. I think this is something key to the success. And we try that we understand the right business model and then create the shipment forecasting accordingly to build on that.
Excellent. I love it. I think what I've seen this past week, a success factor that has risen up is in the partnership with another consumer electronics supplier is how configurable our system can be. And as you talk about, all of the complexities that can happen and the different nodes of inventory and how it flows, but we're able to quickly understand that and configure and be able to iterate in total as we are going along. So example, even in these implementations or in these software that we have implemented, every 2 weeks, we're coming out with a release that is in partnership with that particular customer. And that just makes sure that we are aligned with omnichannel and all of the moving pieces that are happening and able to get feedback and have the highly configurable views that kind of enable all of that work. I would also say the software that we have is very Excel-like. So a lot of these teams are working in Excel and they want that flexibility. They don't want to be held to a system with a certain view. And if you do that, then they're just going to go right back to Excel. So the flexibility that we have within the actual planner and being able to see those calculations and those factors to build scenarios out. So some examples I've seen too of those 10,000 units, Algo providing a recommendation of where to place that inventory in order to maintain 5 weeks of supply, or, what are the right nodes in order to place that product. And when you have a lot of items and a lot of end nodes, it can be overwhelming to figure out where to best place that in total. So that's what gets me, excited, and hearing from a lot of our customers lately of, wow, you guys are really nimble and flexible and not just set one software and then we have to try to mold to it or end up going back to Excel anyways. Excellent. All right. The other one that I wanted to get into then is replenishment. So replenishment planning, Algo actually provides VMI, or vendor managed inventory, where Algo can actually replenish for a supplier to a retailer directly. So we have a lot of those capabilities with the top retailers in the country, in the US, but also globally as well, whether that's, an EMEA or APAC. We get into the, deep nitty gritty and understanding with those allocations and with those advanced algorithms, how do we replenish to a given store? And there's a lot of rules and configurations that come into play there of, what is the minimum amount you want to have on hand? Are there upcoming promotions that we need to be considering? How can we make sure, we're taking into account new item launches, as you were talking about, Usman, on that front. But those, I would say, are key factors. And again, we have operators that, since we internally know how to replenish and utilize that software, it really helps make sure all of our analytics and other solutions, if you want to self-service, use our software, it makes sense. So with that, what are your thoughts, Usman, there?
I want to circle back on what you've said earlier in terms of, having the capability to place the product at the right warehouse. And I think it boils down to the understanding of the processes and supply chain. I've seen so many supply chain, it's been the same issue with the data quality that are, people are not forecasting at the right granularity. Let me give you an example. So let's imagine you have a supply chain with one plant in Europe and multiple warehouses in different countries, and you have like 5 or 6 warehouses around, and one central manufacturing plant. In many cases that I've seen, that my particular plant is the heartbeat of the supply chain, and the weekly dispatch from that particular central manufacturing plant to local warehouses is the key to right fulfillment and right fill rate across those regions. So, if that is the case, then, that one should actually do a forecast per week per warehouse. So exactly know how much do I need to ship next week now. If you start to do a forecast per market per month, maybe you can get it very accurate, but you still need to manipulate it to cut to and to do some kind of rule of sum to transform this forecast per market per month to a week again. So the Algo methodology, where we use machine learning, we help our design in terms of that it works directly at a weekly level at a warehouse instead of monthly per country. So finally, understanding what is the right granularity of the forecast that needs to be done and at what level in supply chain, that becomes the key to right initial allocation and right replenishment at a later stage, because that drives it. And then you've touched upon the WMAP and the right metric of tracking the forecast accuracy. And our advanced analytics module, we try and value by bringing in the right KPI understanding at each level. So for example, weighted mean absolute error and bias tracking are, I think, the 2 core fundamental measures that we track in our system, and trying to minimize the bias and understanding the repeat offenders at that channel, week, customer, account, SKU level. I think this covers the whole horizon of supply planning and replenishment planning. But I strongly advise to have the right measure applied to the right form of supply chain, because a lot of people use just MAPE, and that is not advisable in many scenarios, because then you need a combination of at least weighted MAPE or a combination with bias, so that you don't repeat the same error every week.
Excellent. I love it. 2 other things that come to mind for me too as well. One just being Algo being very comfortable with large data sets. So since we do VMI, we get down to the store item day level, and that's a large amount of data. And how many, machine learning understanding and forecasting and elements that can kind of sit on top of that. But I think that's a differentiating factor at Algo is it's downstream supply chain, but it gets granular, and we're very comfortable with that large data, which again is difficult to do in spreadsheets and with team members. You need a system to be able to really guide you in that space. The other piece that we haven't touched on is actually our virtual assistant. And I would say this has been coming into play quite a bit in the kind of replenishment inventory optimization space. Think of it as kind of your Siri for your business or your supply chain. We at Algo have actually developed a virtual assistant where you can ask a question like, what was my actual sales last week for a given computer? And Algo will respond back and say, last week you sold 10,000 units. And that can be down, you can ask about a specific store. I walk into Richfield, Minnesota store and I look and I don't see product and I want to know, when what was the sales last week or the sales the last 2 weeks for that given store, and see information around that. And that's coming along quite exciting paths, because that assistant can actually set up alerts and let you know if a given item is out of stock, and even working towards the path of providing a recommendation of this item, the store is out of stock, this item's out of stock. Would you like to send additional units, or would you like to increase your forecast and be able to take action? So there's a lot of exciting technology, I would say, that's at Algo on that particular front that I think really differentiates us there as well.
Yeah, and at the heart of it, I think it's our core understanding of the way we consume data and the way we create mayas from the data that is provided by the customer. We understand price and promotion behaviors, the way stock out impacts, and what is why is it impacted, the understanding of that, and then understanding the statistical nuances of that data. Because when we talk about the Siri for the business, our virtual assistant, Algo virtual assistant, we have laid the overall information in a way that the context of the question is properly understood. So when you ask a question to Algo understands the context and continues with the context. So the example that Emily has given, you've asked for your specific sell-through around an account, and Algo will eventually open a view, analytics view, but it will carry that context onto that view, and you don't have to filter that out again. And all is made possible by this amazing technology that we have built, and the framework that we have built in the background to fuel that innovation. Emily, I think you're on mute.
Oh, yes, there you go. That's like the cliche of the virtual daisies. I love it. All right, the last one that we have here is merchandise planning. And this one is near and dear to my heart, and yours as well, I think, Usman. In my prior life, I've been a buyer. I've been the merchant, if you will, and know the pain points that come into play. But here at Algo, again, we are operators that have really created the tools we wish we had when we were in those roles. And on the merchandise front, Algo has a lot of capability and expertise with assortment planning, promotions, space planning, pricing. So in a similar fashion, we kind of cross a little bit past supply chain when we're touching this merchandise planning. But we all know as supply chain leads that that price, that assortment, it drives so much of inventory. And having a partner like Algo, where we have expertise in this space, just makes you stronger as a supply chain lead. So, with that merchandise planning, what are your key success factors you would say there on that front, Usman?
It's a mix of solver and algorithm-based solutions. Again, machine learning at the heart of it, providing that beat to that structure that we have in place. Again, we understand the problem at hand, the objective function that the client wants to maximize, and then build the overall solution with that understanding. In space optimization, there can be different objectives across multiple seasons. So, system has that agility to understand, in one season or in one part of the year, maximizing sell-through can be your objective. In certain areas at a new launch period or at the start of the season, maximizing profit can be your core objective function. So we understand the nature of the assignment, and then the system is agile enough to adopt to that. Problems that are probabilistic in nature are solved through stochastic optimizations techniques and running Monte Carlo simulations. But again, there are certain problems which are normally dealt with the basic linear optimization. So yeah, but again, I cannot reiterate enough on the fact that it's the connected experience. It's understanding of the overall supply chain, and I think correct me if I'm wrong, it's part ownership of those KPIs at the client end. That we will deliver on those KPIs. It's just not your responsibility to deliver on them. It's Algo's responsibility to be part owner of those KPIs and then deliver on them. And that ownership then gets translated into those weekly cadence of customer success calls and having to understand and take that pain, and then delivery. And you are at the forefront of that, Emily, and I think you can talk more around that.
Yeah, so I would say the service aspect or service arm that we have within merchandise planning is we actually provide category management. So it's a specific kind of industry term there, and that means that at Algo we are the ones that help plan the assortment. We help figure out for a given planogram what are the best items to have in that space, but then also more strategically, what are the right promotions to be on fixtures? What are the upcoming holiday, recommended price points on, any given, plan? And so it's really coupling again that software that we have that's really easy to use, that highlights lost sales if we don't make certain moves, along with the services that we can provide of category management, for example, to give that strategic hand in that space. So yeah, like I said, merchandising is one of my favorites. So if anybody wants to chat more about that with me, that would be very exciting. So with that, this is one of another session just to give a little bit of an overview of Algo Solutions and how we bring into the picture the success factors for digital transformation and the technology to really take companies to the next level. We'll have some more series here coming up that are more specific into those individual enterprise pillars and solutions, if you will. So there's definitely more to come, but man, do I appreciate you, Usman, hopping on with me here today to, like I said, bring your smarts, bring your data science and business background to this picture. And I am blessed and so fortunate to be working with you day in, day out here at Algo. So thanks so much for joining me. And if anybody would like to have a further discussion, learn more about the Algo tools, you can contact us either via Messenger or send a note at algo.com/contact on our website. But check us out, and we would love to partner with you in lots of exciting technology and views to come. So thank you, everybody, and have a most wonderful day.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.